Once upon a time in the bustling city of Amberton, there lived a woman named Clara. She was a strong, intelligent, and beautiful woman in her early 30s who had spent most of her adult life searching for true love. For years, she dated, dreamed, and even wept in disappointment when yet another relationship failed to flourish. Through it all, she had two loyal friends by her side, Sophia and Rena, both single, fierce, and full of energy, always encouraging her to stay independent and never settle for less. It was a Tuesday afternoon in early spring when Clara walked into the cozy bookstore cafe tucked behind the old cathedral in town. The kind of place that smelled of cinnamon, aging pages, and something oddly magical. Clara, an interior designer by trade and a poet at heart, had just moved to the city to start over, leaving behind a long, painful breakup and a career that had grown stale. She didn't believe in fate anymore, but fate believed in her. Because on that very same Tuesday, Daniel, technology guy recently returned from a long project in France, walked into that same bookstore cafe looking for solitude and inspiration. They reached for the same book at the same time. Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. Their fingers touched. She looked up, startled. He looked up, amused. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. A spark. A recognition. As if the universe whispered, "There, that's the one." "I think this is yours," Daniel said, smiling and letting go of the book. "You can take it," Clara replied, cheeks warming. "How about we share it?" he asked. And so, over 2 cappuccinos and pages read aloud, their story began. Knowing without knowing, Clara and Daniel started seeing each other often, sometimes deliberately, other times by beautiful accident. They wandered through bookstores, art galleries, open mic nights. They shared dreams, wounds, secrets. Clara loved how Daniel listened with his eyes as much as his ears. Daniel loved how Clara spoke as though words were living things. She told him how she stopped believing in love. He told her how he never gave up on it. By their 5th, accidental date, Daniel whispered while they were watching a street musician, "You feel like something I've been searching for." Clara didn't respond. She was afraid of jinxing it. But inside, her heart whispered back, "Me too." Moments that sealed it. They weren't perfect. They had disagreements. Clara could be guarded. Daniel sometimes too intense. But when they were together, time bent. Everything made sense. They laughed until 3 a.m. They cried watching old films. They got lost in forests and city streets. The moment Clara knew she loved him was when she got the news that her mother's cancer had returned. She called him, voice trembling. He showed up at her doorstep in 10 minutes, with food, soft music, and not a single question. He just sat with her. The moment Daniel knew he loved her was when he returned from an IT trip to Germany and found she had printed and framed one of his favorite photos, and written a small poem beneath it that read, "The way he captures the world is how I hope he sees me. Not just as I am, but as who I can be." The proposal. It was almost 2 years since the day they met. Spring had returned, just like the one they first locked eyes in. Daniel told Clara he wanted to take her somewhere special. He blindfolded her in the car, after much protest and playful laughter, and drove her out of the city to a quiet hillside overlooking the lake. When he removed the blindfold, Clara gasped. There was a blanket on the grass, scattered with wildflowers and books. All the books they'd read together. Candles flickered in glass jars around them. And at the center sat Letters to a Young Poet, the same copy from the bookstore cafe. Daniel took her hands. "Clara," he said, "you were the page I never knew was missing in my story. You've been my calm, my fire, my morning, my midnight." He dropped to one knee holding a small velvet box. "I don't want to spend another day writing life without you. Will you marry me?" Clara's eyes welled with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." The lake shimmered. Beurre sang. And somewhere in the breeze, it felt like even the trees were cheering. She couldn't wait to tell her best friends, Sophia and Rena. The next day, they met at their usual spot, a charming little cafe downtown where they had shared many laughs, secrets, and heartbreaks. Clara arrived glowing with excitement, a diamond ring sparkling on her finger. "I have news!" she beamed, barely able to contain herself. Sophia leaned forward with a raised brow. "This better be good." Clara extended her hand. "Daniel proposed." I said yes. There was a pause, a fraction of a second where neither Sophia nor Rena said a word. Their smiles came a moment too late. "Oh my God!" Rena squealed, pulling her into a hug. "That's amazing!" "Wow, engaged," Sophia said slowly, forcing a laugh. "I didn't even know it was that serious." Clara missed the flicker in Sophia's eyes, the tightening of her lips. She didn't hear the undertone of envy in Rena's voice when she said, "Looks like you're leaving us behind in the singles club." They smiled, toasted with their lattes, and nodded at all the right times. But later that night, Rena messaged Sophia, "I didn't think she'd find someone before us. Right? I mean, she was the one who always cried about being alone." They didn't hate Clara. They just hated that she was moving into a world they hadn't reached yet. A world of stability, of love, of commitment. Wedding planning. Clara, thrilled and full of dreams, dove into planning. She invited Sophia and Rena to be her maids of honor. Despite their unspoken feelings, they accepted with tight smiles. Clara's wedding vision was simple elegance. An outdoor ceremony with soft blush colors, string lights, live music, and handwritten vows. She made Pinterest boards, sent them dozens of dress options and scheduled fittings. At every step, Clara wanted her friends close. She shared her worries, whether the guest list was too big, whether she should go with roses or peonies. She asked them to help her choose her dress. Rena would sigh dramatically during planning sessions. "You're turning into that girl. Everything's wedding, wedding, wedding." Sophia rolled her eyes when Clara gushed about Daniel. "Not every man is as perfect as you think he is, Clara. Don't get too comfortable. Things change after the ring." Clara laughed off their comments at first. "You're just teasing," she said, trying to brush aside the tension. But sometimes, when she caught them exchanging glances or muttering under their breath, she felt a chill she couldn't explain. The night before the wedding. They held a small bridal dinner the night before. Everyone toasted to love and the future. Sophia pulled Clara aside later, drink in hand. "You sure you're ready for this? I mean, marriage is a trap, you know. You'll wake up one day and miss being free." Clara tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Sophia smirked. "Just saying. Being single has its perks. You don't have to answer to anyone. And Daniel? He's sweet now, but men always change." Rena joined in. "If I were you, I'd wait a little longer. You've only known him a couple of years. What's the rush?" Clara tried to laugh it off. But for the first time, their words planted a seed of doubt. Still, she chose to believe in Daniel, and the wedding went on as planned. Daniel wasn't just handsome. He was patient, thoughtful, and hopelessly in love with Clara. He made her laugh until her stomach hurt and looked at her like she was the only woman in the world. Sophia and Tina pretended to be happy for her, clinking glasses and posing for pictures, but inside, they were aching. Tina especially couldn't understand how Clara, always the quiet one, had landed such a dream guy before her. On her wedding day, Clara looked radiant. The sun beamed through the trees as she walked down the aisle. Daniel's eyes glistened with tears when he saw her. As they exchanged vows, guests smiled, clapped, and cried. But when Clara looked at her friends, she noticed something unsettling. Sophia barely smiled. Rena kept checking her phone. Still, Clara pushed aside the doubt and chose to step into the life she had longed for. For a while, everything was beautiful. 2 days after the wedding, Clara and Daniel jetted off to Santorini, the blue and white paradise in Greece, for their honeymoon. The honeymoon begins. Clara's first call came on the second morning. "Good morning, babe," she said brightly over a FaceTime call to Sophia. "You won't believe where Daniel brought me for breakfast. A rooftop cafe overlooking the Aegean Sea. He ordered for me in Greek. I didn't even know he spoke it." Sophia smiled weakly, sitting in her bedroom surrounded by unwashed laundry and leftover pizza. "That's sweet. He kissed me right when the sun hit the sea. It was like a movie, sophomore." I wish you could have seen it. And last night, he ran me a bath with rose petals. He even brought candles in. Sophia clenched her jaw. That's great, Clara. Rena got her call next. It was during lunch break. Clara was lounging by the beach in a bikini, her skin glowing under the sun. Rena, girl, you remember how I told you Daniel used to suck at massages? She started with a giggle. Yeah, Tina said, balancing her phone on her shoulder as she microwaved her lunch. Well, last night he rubbed my back so good. I almost cried. I swear, I think being married made him level up. And this morning, he brought me breakfast in bed, croissants and strawberries. He even wrote me a little love note. Rena laughed nervously. Wow, he's really doing the most, huh? Oh, and guess what? He booked a private boat cruise for just the two of us. He said, you deserve every wave and every sunset, Clara. I mean, who says things like that?
I'm melting, Rena.
Tina hung up minutes later, her appetite gone. Jealousy grows. Over the next few days, Clara's updates came like clockwork. A daily dose of love and luxury. Sophia would stare at her phone after each call, feeling lonelier than ever. Her situationship with Derek hadn't even texted in 2 days. Rena, meanwhile, was growing increasingly bitter. Her boyfriend had forgotten her birthday the previous month, and now Clara was out here getting handwritten poems on the sand. The breaking point came one night when Clara sent a video of Daniel surprising her with a dinner set up on a cliffside, a violinist playing in the background. He told me, Clara said, her voice giddy in the group chat, I could take you to the stars, but they're already in your eyes. She added a winking emoji and a picture of them kissing. Sophia threw her phone across the bed. Tina deleted the message. The boiling point. When Clara returned from her honeymoon, her glow was impossible to ignore. She wore happiness like perfume, soft, but lingering. At brunch, the three friends met again. Clara couldn't stop gushing. You girls have to get married soon. Everything is just sweeter. He looks at me like I'm a queen. Sophia sipped her mimosa, smiling too tightly. Not all of us are lucky to find a Daniel. Rena stirred her coffee. Some of us are still waiting for our fairy tale. Clara reached for their hands, oblivious to the storm brewing in their hearts. Don't worry, your Daniels will come. Just maybe be open to surprises. I never thought he was the one at first, remember? They nodded. They remembered. Clara had met Daniel when she wasn't even looking, and now she had everything they wanted. In their silence. That night, Sophia lay in bed scrolling through Clara's honeymoon photos. Her chest felt heavy. She put her phone down and stared at the ceiling. Rena sat in her room, her boyfriend asleep beside her. She turned her back to him and quietly wiped away tears. Meanwhile, Clara curled up in Daniel's arms, her heart full and her dreams even fuller. She had no idea how deep the envy ran. She just thought she was sharing happiness with the people she loved. But sometimes, the sweetness of one woman's joy is a bitter pill for others still waiting for theirs. And jealousy, left unchecked, can turn even the warmest friendships cold. Clara felt like she was living in a dream. She and Daniel moved into a cozy townhouse in the suburbs. Their days were filled with shared routines: grocery shopping, morning coffee, weekend hikes, quiet dinners, and soft conversations at night. Life was peaceful, ordinary, and content. The magic of Santorini still lingered in Clara's heart. She replayed every sunset, every whispered word, every kiss under moonlight. Daniel had been nothing short of perfect. He carried her bags, made her laugh, held her hand in public, and even sang to her softly on the plane ride home. 3 days after returning, Clara received a call from an unknown number. Came late at night while Daniel was in the shower. She answered, curious and unbothered. Hello. The voice on the other end was low, almost whispered. Is this Clara? Yes. Who's this? The voice paused. You don't know me, but I think you should know. Your husband, Daniel, isn't who you think he is. Clara froze. Excuse me? He's been seeing someone else. Even before the wedding. Clara felt her stomach twist. Who are you? What are you talking about? I can't say who I am. But I know what I know. He's lying to you. Be smart. Watch him closely. Click. The call ended. Clara sat motionless on the couch, her fingers trembling slightly. Her heart raced. Daniel walked out of the bathroom moments later, towel around his waist, smiling. But Clara didn't smile back. You okay? He asked, drying his hair.
Yeah, Shelit.
Just tired. Seeds of doubt. That night she barely slept. Her mind spun. Was it a prank? A mistake? But why did the voice sound familiar? Over the next few days, Clara began to observe Daniel more closely. Was he really working late? Why was he so quick to turn his phone screen away? Why did he suddenly get defensive when she asked about a female colleague? The truth was, Daniel hadn't changed. He still brought her flowers, cooked dinner, and kissed her forehead every night. But Clara had changed. Her trust had been touched by poison, subtle, slow, but real. She stopped calling Sophia and Tina as often. Her heart grew quieter. The confession behind the call. It was Sophia. She had been burning inside ever since the honeymoon updates. Watching Clara live a life she only dreamed of stirred something dark in her. One night, in a swirl of wine, loneliness, and envy, she made the call. She disguised her voice and blocked her number. She never planned to hurt Clara, just shake things up, just to make her doubt a little. Maybe that would humble her. Maybe Daniel would slip up. Maybe Clara would come crawling back, confused and vulnerable. She didn't expect Clara to retreat from her. But when days passed and no calls came, Sophia knew. She had done real damage. Tina noticed too. You've barely spoken to Clara, she said one afternoon. Sophia looked away. Maybe it's good for her. Too much sweetness can make people blind. Tina studied her, suddenly unsure whether they were still talking about Clara or Sophia herself. Daniel was still the same gentle soul, supportive, patient, and steady. He kissed her forehead before leaving for work, left her love notes in the kitchen, and never forgot their little anniversaries. But slowly, the gloss of the honeymoon period began to fade. It started with the small things. The confrontation. Clara couldn't hold it in any longer. The doubt had become a storm inside her. Silent at first, but now loud and crashing, thunderous. The mysterious phone call had nested itself in her mind, replaying every time Daniel touched her, kissed her, or smiled like nothing was wrong. She tried to act normal. She kissed him goodbye before work, cooked his favorite meal on Friday, laughed at his jokes when he told them. But none of it was real. She was observing, not living, questioning, not trusting. Then, one evening, as they sat in the living room watching a movie, Daniel with his arm draped around her, Clara paused the film. Can I ask you something? Her voice was quiet, but serious. Daniel turned to her, eyebrows raised. Of course. She hesitated, as if speaking the words might change everything. I got a phone call. A few nights after we came back from the honeymoon. He sat up slightly curious. Okay. It was a strange number. A woman. She didn't say her name, but she said. Clara looked at him now directly. She said you're not faithful, that you were seeing someone else. Even before the wedding. Daniel blinked, stunned. What? She told me to be smart, that you're lying to me. Silence filled the room like smoke. He stood up, ran a hand through his hair, then looked at her with a strange mix of hurt and confusion. And you believed her? I didn't say that, Clara whispered, but I've been thinking, wondering. Clara, he said firmly, do you really think I'd marry you? Fly across the world with you? Pour myself into you? Just to be hiding something like that? I don't know what to think, she admitted. That call felt real, and I can't stop hearing her voice. Daniel shook his head slowly, then looked her in the eyes. Then show me. Give me the number. Let me hear her. Who was she? I don't know. It was a blocked number. Private. He scoffed, almost in disbelief. So some random, anonymous voice tells you I'm cheating, and that's all it takes to make you question everything between us. I'm not saying I believe it, Clara said quickly, but I also can't unhear it. I watch the way you act, how fast you shut off your phone screen, the nights you come back tired. Things feel different. Daniel stepped closer. Things feel different because you're treating me differently. Since that call, you've looked at me like I'm someone else. You smile, but it's fake. You touch me, but you're distant. You're waiting for me to mess up. He paused, then said more softly, "But I haven't, Clara. I never would." She looked at him, searching for any flicker of guilt, any sign. But all she saw was honesty, or at least something that looked like it. Still, the seed had been planted, and it had roots now. That night, Clara lay next to Daniel in bed, wide awake. His breathing was soft and steady, his arm resting across her waist. But her mind wasn't calm. It was chaos. She replayed the phone call in her head again and again. He's been seeing someone else. Even before the wedding, Clara stared at the ceiling. What if it's true? What if he's just really good at hiding it? What if it wasn't a stranger, but someone I know? And then the voice, the tone, echoed again, and her gut clenched. Sophia. Could it have been her? Clara closed her eyes, torn between two fears. The fear that Daniel might be lying, and the fear that someone she once called her best friend had planted this doubt to destroy her happiness. Either way, trust had been cracked. And once cracked, it never quite holds the same. Clara had just launched a small online interior design business. Working from home while Daniel's job in IT often kept him at the office late. One evening, she waited for him to come home for dinner, but he was delayed without notice. By the time he walked in, tired, briefcase in hand, Clara was fuming. "You could have called," she snapped. "I was stuck in back-to-back meetings." "I didn't even have time to eat," Daniel replied, apologetic. "You always have time to text," she muttered. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He walked over and hugged her. "I'm sorry. You're right. I'll try to do better." It happened again a week later. Daniel forgot to pick up the dry cleaning. Another time, he didn't compliment Clara on a new dress she wore out for dinner. Each time, Clara grew a little more frustrated. And though Daniel apologized, promising to be more attentive, the tension between them slowly built. Trying to fix it. Despite the growing tension, both tried to keep their marriage healthy. They started doing weekly date nights again. Daniel even scheduled reminders on his phone, so he wouldn't forget little things Clara asked for. Clara, too, tried to be patient, reminding herself that Daniel wasn't intentionally hurting her. He was just different in how he processed emotions. They attended a weekend couples workshop recommended by Clara's cousin, which helped them communicate better. For a while, things got better. They laughed more, held hands more, shared more. But then Clara made a mistake that changed everything. She started talking to Sophia and Rena about their problems, involving the wrong people. It started innocently. Clara was venting during brunch with her friends. "I don't know," Clara said, pushing her eggs around her plate. "Sometimes I feel like Daniel just doesn't get me anymore. It's like I'm speaking, but he's not hearing." Sophia scoffed. "That's marriage for you. Men stop trying once they've got the ring." Rena nodded. "You're too passionate to be stuck in something so boring, Clara. You were always the adventurous one." Clara frowned. "He's not a bad person. He tries. He really does." "Trying isn't enough," Sophia said sharply. "You deserve someone who gets it right without being reminded." The more Clara opened up, the more their criticisms sharpened. "Marriage is a cage," Rena said during another dinner. "You don't realize it until it's too late. You had your freedom, remember?" Sophia added. "You used to travel, stay out late, dance with whoever you wanted." Clara chuckled weakly. "I guess I traded that in for security." "You traded it in for predictability," Rena said flatly. "And now you're seeing the price." Clara and Daniel's marriage didn't collapse overnight. No, it eroded slowly, piece by piece, in the quiet cracks between good intentions and hurt feelings. After the phone call that first seeded doubt in Clara's mind, things had never quite gone back to how they were. She still wore her ring. He still kissed her goodnight. But something invisible had settled between them. A presence that watched every conversation, filtered every touch, and made silence feel heavier than noise. The final misunderstanding happened 4 months before the divorce. It started innocently enough with a business trip. Daniel had been invited to a 2-day work retreat organized by his company, something they did twice a year for team bonding and leadership training. It was out of town, about 3 hours away. Clara had been invited too, as spouses sometimes were, but she declined. "Go," she had said, sipping her tea. "I've got a few projects to finish. I'll be fine." Daniel hesitated. "You sure? I'd love for you to come." "I'm sure," she repeated, with a smile that didn't fully reach her eyes. Day 1, the photo. The first day of the retreat, Daniel sent her a picture of the resort. A wide lawn, white buildings, and a bright sunset. He added a caption, "It's nice here. Wish you were with me." Clara responded, "Looks peaceful. Hope the trip's worth it." Later that evening, as she scrolled through Instagram, Clara saw something that tightened her chest. One of Daniel's colleagues, a woman named Sharon, had posted a story, a boomerang video of Daniel laughing during a dinner toast. Sharon was seated next to him, too close. Her hand slightly grazed his shoulder. Then came the comments. Asterisk, cutest work duo Redheart. Asterisk, y'all better behave out there lol. Clara's heart skipped. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Work duo? She didn't text him. She waited. Day 2, silence. Daniel didn't message her much the second day. Just a quick busy day text in the morning, and a late night heading to bed 1 after midnight. Clara couldn't sleep. By 2 a.m., her mind had created 100 stories. Sharon knocking on Daniel's hotel room door. Daniel laughing too hard at her jokes. A moment of weakness. A mistake. When he came home the next evening, Clara didn't greet him with a kiss. She crossed her arms. "Did you have fun?" Daniel looked tired, but he smiled. "It was okay. Long. I'm glad to be home." She nodded slowly. "And Sharon?" He blinked. "What about her? You seemed close. Instagram made it look like you were the life of the party." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "Clara, don't start this. I'm just asking." "No, you're accusing," he said, voice rising slightly. "I went on a work retreat. I sat at dinner. She posted a video. That's it. Then why didn't you call? Why didn't you tell me who you were sitting with? Why does she feel comfortable calling you her duo?" Daniel stared at her, exasperated. "Because I didn't think I had to account for every breath I took. This is exactly what I meant. This relationship is turning into an interrogation room." Clara looked away, jaw clenched. "You've never trusted me, not since that call," he added. "I've been trying, Clara. I've been patient. But this is exhausting." Her voice was softer now. "You never told me nothing happened. I don't have to defend myself against ghosts," he said coldly. "There's nothing to confess." After that night, they stopped talking the same. Their conversations were shorter, drier. Clara started sleeping with her back to him. Daniel started staying out later, not to cheat, but because being at work felt easier than being at home. They fought over little things. Toothpaste, bills, what to eat. But really, they were fighting about everything else. Then one morning, Clara found a deleted message on his iPad while checking emails. It was from Sharon, sent weeks ago. "You looked sharp yesterday. Your wife's lucky." Harmless on the surface. But in the mind of a woman already wounded by doubt, it felt like a smoking gun. She didn't say anything. She just walked into the living room, sat beside Daniel, and said quietly, "I don't think I can do this anymore." Daniel turned slowly, eyes searching hers. "Do what?" "Live like this, doubting, watching, second-guessing your every move." He exhaled deeply. "So that's it." Clara nodded. "I think we've both lost too much of ourselves in this." Daniel didn't argue. Maybe because he agreed. One evening, after a minor argument over finances, Daniel had made a large payment on his student loans without discussing it. Clara left the house to clear her head. She went straight to Sophia's apartment. "I'm tired," Clara said, "of always being the one who compromises, of always forgiving." Sophia poured her wine and sat beside her. "Then stop forgiving." Rena joined in. It's not like you're stuck. You're still young, beautiful, independent. Divorce is not the end of the world. But he loves me, Clara whispered. Love isn't enough, Sophia replied coldly. He might love you, but do you feel alive with him? Or just safe? That night, Clara made a decision she would later come to regret. The end of the marriage. A few weeks later, after another argument, this one about her feeling unseen, Clara packed a small bag and left. Daniel begged her not to go. We can go to counseling again, he pleaded. We're not perfect, Clara, but we're worth saving. Clara's heart ached. But the voices of Sophia and Rena were louder in her head than the man standing in front of her. I need space, she said. Maybe this just isn't working. Daniel didn't stop her. He respected her too much to force her to stay. And so she left. Clara left Daniel on a Sunday morning. It wasn't dramatic, no screaming or door slamming. Just a suitcase, a trembling goodbye, and eyes too tired to cry. Daniel stood on the porch as she stepped into the rideshare, holding back tears. He didn't chase her. She took his silence as proof that their love had already died. She moved into a small, stylish apartment in the city, trying to convince herself that she was finally free from compromise, free from the weight of someone else's needs, free to rediscover herself. At first, it felt exciting. She bought new furniture, redecorated, went out more, changed her hair, revamped her wardrobe. The thrill of independence gave her a temporary high. Sophia and Rena were there every weekend, pulling her into lounges, wine bars, beach trips, and spontaneous nights out. You're glowing, they told her. You look like your old self again. This is the real you. Clara believed it until the nights came. The first man, Marcus. Marcus was tall, charismatic, and witty. They met at a friend's birthday party, and he swept her off her feet. He texted her for days after their first kiss, took her out to fancy restaurants, told her she was too smart to be single. After 3 weeks, they slept together. 2 days later, he stopped replying, blocked her on social media. Clara stared at her phone for hours, wondering what she'd done wrong. Sophia shrugged when she told her, That's men for you. Don't take it personal. On to the next. The second, Elijah. Elijah was spiritual and deep. They connected over poetry and jazz. He spoke of energy and the universe and told her, You're not like the others. They dated for nearly 2 months. Clara began to feel something again. Maybe even love. He stayed over most nights, cooked for her, sang to her. Then, one morning, she found another woman's earrings in his jacket pocket. When she confronted him, he said calmly, I never said we were exclusive. She kicked him out, slept for 2 days straight, cried into her pillow until her throat burned. The third, Jason. Jason was younger, a fitness trainer with a perfect smile. He adored her body and her confidence. Clara knew it was mostly physical, but she convinced herself that love could grow. They went on weekend trips, posted selfies, and played house for a month. He realized she was once married, so when she mentioned meeting her family, he ghosted her. By now, Clara was breaking inside. The fourth, Anthony. Anthony was polite, successful, and well-mannered. He met her at a networking event and said all the right things. For the first time in a while, Clara felt like she might be heading toward something real. They dated for 3 months, but Anthony never opened up emotionally. He was distant, vague, always keeping her just outside the walls of his heart. One night, after dinner, he told her he wasn't ready for anything serious. I thought we were getting serious, Clara whispered. He looked away. I never promised that. The fifth, Derek. Derek was fun, spontaneous, full of energy. He made her laugh, made her feel young and wild again. They danced all night, kissed in the rain, and lived like there was no tomorrow. They had chemistry, but no future. After they slept together a few times, Derek began showing up less and less until eventually he stopped coming at all. Clara stared at herself in the mirror the morning after he left her last unread message. 5 men. 5 different versions of heartbreak. The weight of loneliness. What began as a quest to reclaim herself had become a cycle of hope and disappointment. Clara felt empty, used, like she was chasing something that only moved further away the faster she ran toward it. Nights were the worst. She would lie awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Daniel, of how he used to make her tea when she couldn't sleep, of how he rubbed her back when she was stressed, of how he always tried even when he failed. She wondered if he still thought of her, but pride held her back. On a breezy Saturday morning, her phone buzzed. It was a group message from Sophia and Rena. "Hey Clara, smiling face, with hearts, we have something to tell you. Let's do lunch. Just the girls, like old times. You free this weekend?" Clara hesitated. It had been months since they really spoke. Not since before the divorce papers were signed. But curiosity, and maybe a small yearning for closure, made her agree. They met at a stylish cafe in the city, a place Clara had once shown them back when she was still planning her honeymoon. Sophia arrived in a flowy pink dress, cheeks glowing with blush and happiness. Rena wore a soft smile and a new kind of peace in her eyes. They looked different, softened, satisfied. Clara was the last to arrive. She wore a simple black dress, her hair pulled back into a low bun. No makeup, no shine, just the version of herself that had learned how to be alone. They hugged. The energy was awkward at first, but eventually, after drinks were ordered and light chatter faded, Sophia leaned forward, grinning. "Clara, I'm in love," she announced, almost bursting. Tina laughed, nudging her. "Me too. Can you believe it? We both are." Clara blinked slowly, her fork pausing midair. "Wait, both of you?" They nodded eagerly. Sophia gushed. "He's everything, Clara. He texts me good morning every day, opens the car door, even cooks for me on Sundays. Like, who knew men still did that?" Rena chimed in. "Mine listens to me. I mean, really listens. And he's grounded, mature. He's not perfect, but I feel safe." Clara swallowed, then leaned back slowly, eyes narrowing just a little. "Oh wow," she said, voice calm but sharp around the edges. "That's funny." Sophia's smile twitched. "What do you mean?" Clara tilted her head. "I mean, I just remember how you both used to say relationships were cages, traps, that you wanted to stay free, that settling down was overrated and marriage was just paperwork with pressure. You both cheered when I started doubting Daniel. Even suggested I cut my losses before I lost myself." Rena cleared her throat. "Well, things change. People change. Or maybe," Clara continued, "you never wanted freedom. You just didn't want me to be happy first." The table fell into silence. Sophia looked down at her plate. "Clara, that's not fair, isn't it?" she asked softly. "You fed my fears when I needed reassurance. You acted like love was a lie, when now you're out here talking about good morning texts and candlelit dinners." Tina finally said, "Clara, listen, we were in a different place back then. And yes, maybe we didn't know how to handle your happiness. Maybe we envied it. But love is sweet. We know that now." Sophia added, "Loneliness kills, Clara. Changes you. There's nothing in these streets. Nothing but disappointment and shallow games. Real love? It's rare. And when you find it, you hold it." Clara gave a small, bitter smile. "Yeah, I did hold it, until I let go, because of a call, a lie, from someone I trusted." Sophia's eyes flickered, but she said nothing. Clara stood up slowly, reaching for her bag. "I'm happy for you both. I really am. But forgive me if I'm not ready to toast to love is sweet, from the same mouths that once told me to run from it." She turned to leave, then paused. "Enjoy what you've found. Just remember, advice given in bitterness always tastes different when you're finally sipping from the cup of love yourself." And with that, Clara walked away. A little bruised, a little wiser, but no longer blind. Yes, but so is honesty. And some friendships never recover from the lies spoken when hearts are heavy with jealousy. Clara was stunned. Sophia, the anti-marriage warrior, suddenly sounded like a schoolgirl. She was happy for them. But behind every congratulations, Her heart broke a little more. They had found what she had thrown away. The realization. On a quiet evening, Clara sat alone on her balcony with a glass of wine. Her phone buzzed. Photos from Sophia's bridal shower. She was no longer the center of their world. They were building new lives, new circles. Their advice had led her to a place they had never truly lived in, and now they were leaving her behind. For the first time in years, Clara admitted the truth to herself. She had left a good man, not because he had failed her, but because she had listened to voices that didn't understand the value of working through love's growing pains. Months turned into years, and Clara's once busy life quieted. The parties became fewer. The texts from men stopped coming. Sophia and Rina, now both married with children on the way, rarely had time for brunches or spontaneous night outs. Clara scrolled through social media one evening, passing through posts she had once felt part of. Baby showers, wedding anniversaries, holiday trips. She paused at an old photo of her and Daniel, arms around each other, laughing at a beach, taken during their honeymoon. Her heart clenched. That love had been real. Quiet, imperfect, but real. She had walked away from a man who tried. A man who bent without breaking. A man who had loved her enough to apologize even when he wasn't wrong. Tears welled in her eyes. She had to see him. Clara waited a few more weeks before reaching out. She wrote a message several times and deleted it. What if he hated her? What if he'd moved on? Finally, one rainy Saturday morning, she opened her laptop, found his old email, and typed, "Subject: I hope you're well. I've been meaning to write this for a long time. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for walking away, for listening to the wrong people, for giving up on something that mattered. I don't know where life has taken you, but I think about you often. I hope you're happy, Clara." She hesitated for a full hour before hitting send. The reply. A few days passed. Then, a reply arrived.
Y Clara.
"Thank you for reaching out. That means a lot. I'm glad you're doing okay. I won't lie. It took me a long time to move past what happened. I truly loved you, and losing our marriage broke me for a while. But eventually I healed. I'm married now. Her name is Layla. She's wonderful, gentle, patient, a lot like you once were. We just had our first child last month. I hope you find peace, Clara. I truly wish the best for you. Daniel." Clara read the message 3 times before it sank in. Daniel had moved on. Fully. Completely. There would be no dramatic reunion. No second chance. He had built a new life where she no longer belonged. The final realization. Clara sat alone on her living room floor, surrounded by silence. No one was calling. No one was coming over. Her phone lit up occasionally, but it was mostly marketing messages and distant friends checking in. Her apartment, once a symbol of independence, now felt like a hollow shell. Sophia was married. Rina too. They had built new lives and families. The same friends who once told her marriage was a trap were now glowing in their maternity photos, holding hands with husbands who adored them. And Clara? Clara was alone. Not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally. She had traded a man who loved her for a fantasy of freedom that had long since vanished. Over time, Clara built walls around her heart. She stopped answering calls from Sophia and Tina. She declined invitations to their family gatherings. She told herself she didn't need anyone. Her trust was shattered. She wouldn't let herself be fooled again. Love became a closed chapter, a painful memory she locked away. Instead, she focused on what she could control, her career. The final blow came during Tina's daughter's birthday. Clara hadn't been invited. When she asked why, Tina said casually, "Oh, it was just for couples and kids. Didn't think you'd enjoy it." Sophia added, "You've been so different lately. Honestly, you never really understood what it's like to be a wife and mom." Clara was stunned. "Didn't I used to be married too?" she asked quietly. Tina gave her a pitiful look. "That was different. You didn't even try to make it work." That night, Clara sat in her apartment, reading old chat logs. The same friends who once told her to leave now blamed her for not staying. She realized something painful. They hadn't wanted her to be free. They wanted her to be like them. When they were single, her independence made them feel safe. But now that they had husbands and homes, her singleness reminded them of a freedom they left behind. The rise of Clara. Clara dove into work with relentless determination. She studied late into the night, earned certifications, and slowly built a business consulting firm that began to thrive. Her financial independence grew, brick by brick, until she no longer worried about anyone but herself. She adopted a quiet routine, adopting a rescue dog named Max and decorating her apartment with plants and books, companions that didn't betray or disappoint. Her friends from her old life became distant echoes, replaced by colleagues who respected her boundaries and admired her strength. Years passed. Clara didn't seek love. Love found her in small ways, through the smile of a client, the wag of Max's tail, the satisfaction of closing a successful deal. She realized that love wasn't always the grand, sweeping romance her friends promised. Sometimes, it was the peace she found within herself. She never fully forgave Sophia and Tina for their betrayal, but she no longer wasted energy on resentment. Instead, she gave herself permission to live, not for others but for herself. She whispered into the empty room, "I left everything for nothing." And the lesson Should would never forget was this. Sometimes the people you love the most will give you advice based on where they are, not where you are meant to go. And if you let them, they'll convince you to give up everything, only to abandon you once you no longer fit the version of you that made them comfortable. So no matter what you do, listen to yourself, listen to your heart. So if anything goes wrong, you blame yourself for your actions. It is better that blaming others for the actions happening in your life. It's your life, we only live once. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.